Hi. Welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. Betrayal was just the beginning. Revenge will be her masterpiece. On the night of their third wedding anniversary, Emma's world shatters when she discovers her husband's affair with none other than her childhood best friend. But when heartbreak tums to devastation in a tragic accident that steals the life of her unborn child, Emma is left with nothing but pain and the burning desire for vengeance. Determined to make them pay, she crafts the perfect illusion: her own death. With the help of a dangerous ally, she will disappear from their lives, leaving behind a trail of guilt, suspicion, and ruin. Emma is no longer the woman who once begged for love. She is the storm that will turn their perfect lives into ruins. And when she returns, they will regret the day they ever betrayed her. For Emma, love was a lie. But revenge? That will be forever. Today was supposed to be special. Our third wedding anniversary. A day filled with love, warmth, and promises of forever. I had spent the entire afternoon preparing a romantic dinner, picturing the joy on Daniel's face when he walked into candlelight, soft music, and the aroma of his favorite dishes. But that wasn't the only surprise. The real gift was the small stick I'd been holding on to, the positive pregnancy test that would change our lives forever. But then, everything shattered. Because as I was fixing the laundry while waiting for him, I found a hotel receipt and a lipstick stain on the polo he wore yesterday. But I stayed the whole day here in our house yesterday, and I was sure that I didn't kiss him because he demanded to sleep the moment he went home. So instead of spending this precious moment of our life celebrating the years we've been together, we were caught in a really intense and deep argument. "Tell me, who was with you yesterday?" I shouted at him, throwing his polo on his face. His jaw clenched at my behavior, obviously disliking it. "I was at the office." "You are always like this. You are so paranoid. And you are always dismissing me." Not being able to keep it together anymore, I burst into tears. "I am your wife. You should be honest with me." "Cut the nonsense, Emma. I am exhausted from work, and you are acting like this." Daniel attempted to turn his back on me, but I grabbed his arm because I wanted to hear the truth. I knew he was lying and trying to defend himself, but I was no fool, and I was his wife, so I deserved every single thing that I wanted to know in this relationship. "Just tell me the truth, Daniel," I demanded, my voice already restrained from exhaustion, but the desperation still clung to it. He seemed to have noticed it because his face softened, and he sighed heavily, lifting his hands on my face to caress it. And just like an instinct that I couldn't control, I closed my eyes and leaned my face close to his palm. His effect on me has always been like this. Whenever we get into an argument or a misunderstanding, I would always melt beneath his touch. "I am not cheating on you, honey," he whispered, gently pulling my head to rest on his chest. "You are the only woman I love." I kept my mouth shut, just listening to the sound of his heartbeat until I calmed down. Then, after everything was settled, we headed to our bedroom together like nothing happened and laid next to each other on the bed. But I wasn't as stupid as he thought, because when I made sure he was deep asleep, I rose from the bed and grabbed his phone from the bedside table. I thought nothing could hurt me anymore, but as soon as I turned the gadget on and saw his wallpaper, I felt like my whole world shattered. The photo there wasn't me anymore, but a photograph of another woman that I've known my whole life, my best friend since childhood, who was now a popular model. Carla Steinhold was smiling brightly in the photograph, her ears and neck adorned with expensive jewelry that I immediately recognized because they were mine. That jewelry was given to me by my late mother, and I could still vividly remember how Carla begged me countless times before for them. But I've never given them to her because they held an important place in my heart until they just vanished one day in my jewelry closet. Clenching the phone in my hand, I took a deep breath to gather courage before opening the messages. Then right there, when I read the sweet messages they sent to each other, my heart broke into a million pieces. Daniel texted and called her more than he ever did to me, asking about how her day went and if she needed anything. The betrayal was too much, sending my tears streaming down my face quietly. But something overpowered it, something that was inevitable: the will to take revenge and to show them what kind of woman they made a fool of. Turning my gaze to my husband, I glared at him and silently cursed him right in front of his sleeping face. How could he sleep peacefully like that, knowing that he was hurting the woman he promised to love and take care of until death do them apart? But that wasn't important anymore, because I will break that vow too right now, promising to myself and to whoever was listening that I will do everything to break them into a million more parts, making sure that they would never be able to stand up again. I was determined to take my revenge, following my husband wherever he went and shadowing his every move like a ghost refusing to be forgotten. That was why I was here, watching him have a romantic date with Carla in a luxurious restaurant, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and heartbreak that made my chest feel like it was caving in. Daniel never brought me into this kind of restaurant, always claiming that he preferred my cooking, that staying at home was more intimate, more special. "We don't need fancy places to enjoy each other's company," he used to say with a smile, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. But look at him now, dressed in his best suit, eyes shining with laughter as he poured Carla a glass of wine. She giggled, while twirling her hair between her fingers, completely at ease with the man who had sworn his love and loyalty to me. They looked so happy, as if they weren't tearing me apart with their betrayal. As if they weren't shattering everything I had believed in. As if they weren't destroying not just me, but the future of the child I was carrying. None of them knew I was pregnant, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted them to. Why should they deserve to know? Why should my child be burdened with a father like Daniel, a man so easily swayed, so quick to throw away the vows we made? Carla, the woman I had once trusted with my deepest secrets, had proven herself unworthy of even a shred of my loyalty. I couldn't help but to blame myself for this, because I couldn't brush off the thought in my head that it was my fault for giving my child that kind of father because I chose to marry him, making me realize that I should have listened to my mother when she told me that my future children couldn't choose their father but I could. Lifting my phone, I clicked the shutter button of my camera a lot more times than I intended when Daniel and Carla started to kiss. My hands trembled as I captured their betrayal, my breaths growing shallow with every photo I took. They didn't mind the people watching them, too lost in their own world, too consumed by the so-called love they shared. They only cared about the romantic moment unfolding between them, while I sat here, suffocating on the reality they forced upon me. It killed me from within, the pain sinking deep into my bones, twisting in my chest until I could barely breathe. My grip on the steering wheel tightened, my knuckles turning white from the sheer force of it. Then, without thinking, I slammed my foot on the gas pedal. The car surged forward, faster than I had ever dared to drive in my life. The engine roared, a wild and unrelenting sound that blended with the thunder overhead, mirroring the storm raging inside me. I didn't care about the traffic lights flashing warnings in the darkness, their red and yellow hues bleeding into the night like distant and meaningless signals. I also didn't acknowledge the blaring horns of the other vehicles, the screech of tires as they swerved to avoid me. None of it mattered as my tears poured down exactly when the rain did. It blurred my vision, drowning out everything but the unbearable ache clawing at my chest. It was blurry as the thoughts inside my head. I lost care for the world and just minding the soaring pain in my chest that sent me to drive even faster, until a blinding light yanked me back to my senses. But it was already too late for me to slam my foot on the brake as the approaching truck slammed on my car. The impact was brutal, a deafening crash of metal against metal that reverberated through my entire being. My body lurched forward, the seatbelt slicing into my skin. It held me in place even as my world spun violently out of control. My car twisted, skidding across the slick pavement before slamming into the crunch. Then, gravity took over. Concrete barricade with a sickening, the barrier crumbled beneath the force, and my car was sent hurtling over the edge. For a fleeting moment, there was silence, a weightless pause where time seemed to stretch infinitely. But then, the roaring waters surged up to meet me. The river swallowed my car whole, the icy current crashing through shattered windows and dragging me into its unforgiving depths. And just as the water consumed me, it stole my consciousness too. I am sorry, but you had a miscarriage. Your baby didn't survive the crash. The doctor's words sent a whirlwind of daggers directly into my heart, killing the last part where it still used to beat after all of the pain. It seemed like I forgot to breathe as I began to cry when the doctor left the room to give me time, my hands absent-mindedly holding my belly in desperation to feel something within it to feel my child, but that was impossible. The baby names I've prepared, because he didn't survive. Clothes I wanted to buy, and the nursery plans I've been looking forward to were now all useless because I lost my child, the only one that I was clinging onto for hope and to remain living in this cruel world. I should have just died too, I whispered to myself, choking from my own tears and sobs as Elle cried uncontrollably. My pain filled every inch of the sterile hospital room, suffocating me like an unbearable weight pressing down on my chest. Open. Then suddenly, the door creaked. I swallowed down another sob, turning my tear-streaked face toward the sound. Then there he was, Daniel. His eyes were wide with worry, his forehead creased as if he actually had the audacity to be concerned about me. I had never hated him more than at this moment. But before I could process my rage, before I could even think, another figure stepped inside. Carla stood next to him, shoulder to shoulder, like they belonged together. My stomach churned. The sight of them standing side by side sent a fresh wave of bile up my throat, and I had to grip the sheets tighter to keep from screaming. Their eyes were filled with pity, like they hadn't been the ones who put me here. Like they hadn't been the reason I was lying in this hospital bed, bleeding out. They were some sort of united front, here, to show their false concern from a loss I would never recover from. Consumed by rage, I stood up from the bed and strode toward them without a warning. And before they could even process what my next move would be, my palm already landed across their thick faces. Carla gasped, clutching her red cheek, then the unexpected happened as my own husband violently pushed me away. My back hit the bed, earning a wince from me as pain shot all throughout my weak and wounded body. "What is your problem, Emma?" he roared, holding Carla in his arms as he glared at me with so much hatred. "She is here because she's worried, then you will just slap her? Where is your manners? This is all your fault," I shouted as I cried uncontrollably. "I lost my child because of you." Daniel's face softened upon hearing my confession, his arms weakening around Carla's body as he took a step closer to me. "See, child? You were pregnant?" "Yes," I shouted again. "But I lost our child because you are having an affair with my best friend. And don't you ever try to deny it, because I've seen your shameless affair with my own two eyes." "Don't blame someone else for your own recklessness, Emma," Carla interjected, crossing her arms as she scowled at me. "This is all your fault." Clenching my fists, I was about to attack her again when Daniel aggressively grabbed my arm and shoved me away again to protect his mistress. "Clara is right. This is all your fault," he muttered. "I am filing a divorce." My breath hitched upon hearing him, making my whole body cold. "No," Carla snorted. "No? Daniel doesn't want you anymore, Emma. Wake up and don't squeeze yourself in his life anymore." I shook my head multiple times, not because I still love him and wanted to remain his wife, but because I needed to stay close to him in order to take my revenge. So without any choice left, I dropped onto my knees and begged right in front of him. Please, don't do this. I am begging you, Daniel. Please, don't leave me." I knew that Carla was enjoying seeing me this desperate, and she should make the most out of it because in the end, she would be the one begging on her knees for my pity. "Kneel all you want, Emma. But I will not change my mind because I don't want you anymore. You are no good compared to Carla." My husband's words sent a smile on his mistress' face, but a millions of daggers to me which shattered the tiniest hope I was clinging to. And with that, they turned around and left me defeated and alone in the dark confinement of my hospital room. Daniel's belongings were nowhere in sight when I returned home. He had moved out, packed up his life, and settled into Carla's apartment, leaving me alone in the wreckage of what we once were. But solitude did not break me. If anything, it fueled me. I refused to crumble. Instead, I spent the following days crafting my revenge, sharpening it like a blade. I delved deep into research, meticulously learning the art of staging a perfect fake death. Every step, every detail, every possible outcome, I committed them all to memory. This was my plan. My justice. My retribution. I would vanish from their lives, leaving behind only devastation in my wake. And when the world turned its accusing eyes on Daniel and Carla, branding them as murderers, they would finally understand what it meant to lose everything. They might not care about me. Not now. Not ever. But their public image? That was their lifeline and their shield. It was their carefully curated illusion of virtue. And that was exactly what I would take from them. Or perhaps, if fate was kind, Daniel might finally feel the weight of his sins. He might finally break under the guilt, drowning in the same torment he had forced upon me. Pulling my car to the side of the road, I stepped out of it and fixed my sunglasses as I made my way inside a small antique shop in the middle of nowhere. This was where I will meet the people who will help me with my revenge, and upon pushing the door open, I immediately saw him, Nathan, a friend from college who had long since left the world of ordinary people, slipping into the shadows where law and morality blurred. He had contacts, resources, and most importantly, no conscience when it came to deception. He leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips as his dark eyes raked over me. "Long time no see, Emma," he mused, his voice laced with amusement. "You're still as beautiful as ever." I wanted to roll my eyes at his flirtation, but I didn't have time for games. I slid into the seat across from him, my voice firm and unwavering. "Tell me what kind of help you can provide." Nathan chuckled, tapping his fingers against the table. "Straight to the point. Just like before." He studied me, a glint of curiosity in his eyes. "But let me ask you first, why do you want to fake your death?" "That's not exactly a small request." "Because I want my husband to regret everything he did to me," I answered without hesitation. He clicked his tongue in mock disappointment. "TSK. I told you, you should have just picked me instead of him. I'm not here to play with you, Nath." "So," Nathan clapped his hands, abruptly cutting me off. "You said you wants your fake death to be suicide. That's a bit crucial, but I could make it possible." "And the catch is?" I asked because he hadn't told me yet about the exchange of his service, telling me over the phone last night that he will tell me once I met with him. Nathan's smirk widened. "You will marry me and start a new life with me far away from here." His words hung between us, an unspoken challenge in his tone. I was caught off guard and couldn't do anything but stare at him, my mind racing. I had anticipated some form of payment, but marriage? That was not part of my plan. Nathan tilted his head. "Think about it, Emma. You want revenge, but what comes after that? Where will you go? What will you do? I'm offering you a way out. A fresh start." I clenched my fists under the table. He wasn't entirely wrong. If I succeeded, I couldn't just walk back into my old life. Emma, the betrayed wife, would no longer exist. Nathan leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You want to make them pay? I can help. But in return, you become mine." I swallowed hard. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about survival, and for it I would do anything. Taking a deep breath, I squared my shoulders and bravely met his eyes before deal. "Once this is over, I will be your wife." Extending my palm to his, muttering. "If you want me to sign the divorce paper, meet me at the rooftop." Sending the text message to my husband, I took a deep sigh before I slid my phone back into the pocket of my jeans. I stared off into the vast emptiness, the darkness stretching out before me as the wind swept away my hair. The trees below danced with the wind, their branches swaying like they, too, felt the weight of the moment. I was on the rooftop of the building where Daniel worked, and I chose this place for a very specific reason because I knew he was terrified of heights. I knew that the higher we were, the less likely he'd be able to bring himself to look down at me once I made my move. Once I jumped, I was determined to fake my own death tonight and make him believe I was gone. And in doing so, I would ensure he carried the blame for the rest of his life. He had wronged me, betrayed me in ways too painful to describe, and this was the only way I could think to make him truly understand the depths of his actions. Nathan's men were already in position. The cameras were ready to capture the evidence we needed. The net, stretched taut below, was prepared to catch me once I made my fall. Everything had been meticulously planned, and now all I had to do was wait. I didn't have to wait long. Soon, I saw his silhouette emerging from the stairwell, slowly making his way toward me. As Daniel came closer, he didn't bother to hide the irritation in his expression. "Why do you need to see me?" "Just sign the goddamn divorce paper," he demanded, his voice sharp and cold. "You want me out of your life that badly?" I asked, my voice laced with a bitter chuckle, though the ache in my chest threatened to crush me whole. "Yes," Daniel replied without the slightest hesitation. His gaze was cold, detached, void of the love that once existed between us. "So sign the papers, Emma. You no longer matter in my life. I want to spend my years with Carla, so if you may, please be gone." His words were sharper than any blade, cutting through me with brutal precision. I felt the last remnants of my sanity and morality begin to crack under the weight of his cruelty, but I refused to let him see my pain. Instead, I lifted my chin and met his gaze with unwavering determination. "You will regret all of this, Daniel," I whispered, my voice a promise wrapped in steel. "I swear, you will live the rest of your life drowning in regret until it consumes you, until it breaks you, until you lose your mind." Daniel scoffed, amusement flickering in his eyes as he crossed his arms over his chest. "You're always so dramatic, Emma. Always spewing nonsense, threatening me as if you actually have the courage to follow through." He never got to finish his insult because without a moment's hesitation, I stepped backward, leaning into the empty space behind me. "Emma." Daniel's taunt twisted into a horrified shout as my body plummeted into the abyss. The wind howled around me, whipping through my hair, stinging my skin as I fell. The world blurred into a chaotic mess of color and motion, my breath stolen from my lungs as gravity pulled me mercilessly downward. But despite it all, I kept my eyes open, searching and hoping in desperation to see even the slightest flicker of concern on his face. But he didn't look. He never even leaned over the edge. His voice faded into nothing, lost in the roaring wind as I continued to descend. The last thing I felt was the brutal impact of my body hitting the ground, landing with a sickening thud that snatched away the light in me. I was swallowed by pitch darkness. Then when I opened my eyes, I found myself in an unfamiliar cottage in the middle of a small town with no memory of who I was and what happened before that darkness. I was a new person, not remembering a single thing, not even my name and my age. My head was throbbing as I sat up on the bed, and despite my blurry vision, I looked around my surroundings to figure out where I was. Lamp standing on the bedside table illuminating the entire room as the gush of the waves in the ocean outside tandem with the chirps of the crickets. I had never been here before, I was certain of that. Yet, as I searched my mind for any trace of familiarity, all I found was emptiness. It was as if I had been wiped clean, stripped of every piece of identity that had once made me me. Was inside a wooden cottage, eh? Then, a voice cut through the silence. "You're awake." I turned sharply, my heart pounding as I searched for the source of the voice. A tall, well-built man stood by the wooden door, his face illuminated by the warm glow of the lamp he held in one hand. His dark eyes were unreadable, yet there was something in them, relief, perhaps, or something deeper. Before I could utter a word, he quickly placed the lamp down and strode toward Emily. I was very worried. I thought. Me with purpose. "You would never wake up," he said as he pulled me into a tight embrace. "Emily?" I asked, barely whispering. The name was unfamiliar to me, giving me this weird feeling that I couldn't quite point out. He pulled back just enough to cup my face in his large, roughened hands, his fingers brushing against my cheek with delicate gentleness. "Yes," he said softly. "Your name is Emily." I swallowed hard, staring at him, recognition. But there was nothing. Just searching his face for any flicker of stranger looking at me as if I was the center of his world. "And you?" My voice was barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" A faint smile played on his lips. "I am Nathan," he said. "I am your husband." Husband. His words echoed inside my head. Over and over, making it throb in pain again as voices suddenly mingled with it. I could hear my own voice saying the word Nathan used to introduce his relation to me, but it seemed like I was calling out. My breathing grew unsteady, my fingers clutching at the sheets beneath. Someone's name. Me. I don't understand, I admitted. Nathan's expression softened as he took my hands in his thumb stroking the back of mine as if to comfort me. "You need to rest, Emily," he murmured. "Don't force yourself to remember." I shook my head. "Remember?" My voice wavered. "How can I remember when there's nothing there? What happened to me, Nathan? Why don't I know who I am?" A deep sigh escaped him, his gaze flickering with something unreadable. After a moment's hesitation, he finally spoke. "You were in an accident," he explained gently. "A storm hit while we were at sea. The boat capsized, and you hit your head in the water. When we found you, you were unconscious." A gasp escaped my lips upon hearing the information, but before I could open my mouth again to ask another question, Nathan pulled me into a hug and softly laid our intertwined bodies on the bed. "We must rest now, wife," he whispered, his breath warm against my hair. "I will explain everything tomorrow. And I'll take you for a walk around the village. It might help you feel more at home." His voice was steady, comforting. His body radiated warmth, making it difficult to resist his hold. So, in the end, I let out a soft sigh and nestled closer to him. But I did not sleep. I lay awake the entire night, staring at the window, watching as the darkness slowly faded and the golden hues of dawn spilled across the sky. "You promised to take me for a walk around the village," I reminded Nathan as I watched him buttoning his tunic to prepare for fishing in the ocean. "Yes," he replied. "Let's go." He took my hand and we walked out of our mini cottage together, immediately greeted by a swarm of village people who were just minding their own business before I showed up. Their heads turned in my direction in unison, whispering to each other as Nathan and I walked past them. Their eyes gave me chills all over my body, making me conscious and to bow down my head. "Do not mind them. They are just surprised that you are finally awake," Nathan told me. "How long have I been unconscious?" I asked. "Almost a year." His answer made me gasp, clutching my own mouth to suppress it. "And we have been married for almost 2 years, Emily. Do we have children? How I wish." Nathan chuckled. "But you are enough for me. All I want is you." My heart warmed from his words, tugging my lips into a genuine smile as I watched him gently kiss the back of my hand. I couldn't believe that I have a husband like him. I must be the luckiest wife in the whole wide world. But at the same time, I felt like it was odd, like I haven't been treated this way before, like I endured something, pain? Betrayal? I couldn't exactly place what. "I must go to work now," Nathan said. "I'll see you later." He kissed the top of my head before turning his back to walk toward the ocean. Then when he was already out of sight, I overheard a conversation between the villagers. "A millionaire from the city is looking for his only daughter heiress. They said she vanished almost a year ago and was suspected to be kidnapped by syndicates." What I overheard left me shackled, the weight of the villagers' words settling deep in my mind. They played on repeat, a relentless echo I couldn't silence. A millionaire was searching for his missing daughter, an heiress who had vanished almost a year ago. Who was she? And why, of all places, was her father searching for her in this quiet, unassuming village? The thought gnawed at me relentlessly, refusing to let go. An uneasy feeling coiled in my chest, and before I could even process it fully, the question slipped past my lips. Have you heard of the lost millionaire heiress? Nathan, who had been meticulously untangling his fishing nets, froze at my words. His hands stilled, the tension in his shoulders growing noticeable. For a moment, silence stretched between us like an invisible thread, tightening as I awaited his response. But instead of an answer, he countered with a question of his own. Who told you about that? His voice was calm, but there was something behind it, something guarded. I hesitated. I just overheard it from the villagers. Nathan's expression darkened. It's nonsense. His tone was clipped, final. They will not find his daughter here. Without another word, he turned his back on me, his retreating figure making my stomach twist. A strange unease settled over me, a feeling that I couldn't quite explain. It felt as though something was slipping through my fingers, something vital, something I should have known. Acting on instinct, I reached out, grabbing his arm before he could walk away. I feel like you're not telling me something. Before I could finish, something slipped from Nathan's pocket, falling onto the white sand between us. A necklace. Its silver chain caught the sunlight, glistening as it rested on the white sand beneath us. But it wasn't just the shimmer of the metal that captured my attention, it was the name etched into the small pendant. 4 simple letters, clear as day. Pulled at my chest, a sensation I couldn't place, confusion, betrayal, something deeper that made my pulse quicken. Emma. My breath hitched. A strange tug. I bent down slowly, my fingers trembling as I picked up the necklace, dangling it from my fingertips as I stared at the engraving. The name Emma felt oddly significant, like a whisper in the back of my mind that I couldn't quite hear. A thought slithered through me, unbidden and unrelenting. Who was Emma? And why was my husband carrying another woman's jewelry? The unease within me festered, twisting into something more potent. Jealousy? Possessiveness? Fear, I couldn't tell, but an overwhelming sense of loss surged within me, as if I had been through this before, as if I had once fought to hold on to something only for it to slip away. I clutched the necklace tighter and turned to Nathan, my voice sharp with accusation. Why do you have another woman's jewelry? Nathan's eyes flickered with something unreadable: surprise, guilt, frustration? I wasn't sure. But instead of answering, he swiftly snatched the necklace from my grasp, as if my mere touch burned him. The action sent a sharp pang through my chest. Are you cheating on me? My voice was quieter now, barely above a whisper, but it wavered with the weight of my emotions. I fought to keep it steady, to keep it from cracking under the pressure of my own uncertainty. Were you having an affair with her while I was in a coma? Nathan's brows furrowed slightly, his expression unreadable. What? His voice was laced with disbelief. Of course not. I am not cheating on you, Emily. He took a step closer, reaching out as if to reassure me, but I instinctively stepped back. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, and I couldn't allow him to soothe them away so easily. Then who is Emma? Nathan exhaled a slow, heavy sigh, dragging a hand through his hair before finally meeting my gaze. His lips parted, hesitating for a moment before he finally answered. She was a very important person to me. A lump formed in my throat. My hands clenched into fists at my sides as I braced myself for his next words. She was my world, but she is gone now. My breath hitched. A strange, dull ache settled in my chest, as though I was mourning something I didn't even remember losing. Where is she? I asked before I could stop myself. Nathan hesitated again, but then his gaze softened. Somewhere far, he murmured. He took another step forward, this time grasping my hands in his. His touch was warm, steady, comforting in a way that left me even more confused. Somewhere safe away from the cruelty of this world. There was something about the way he said it, something about the lingering sorrow in his voice, that made my stomach churn. It felt as though his words held a deeper meaning, one that I wasn't meant to understand. I am sorry if I made you feel upset. Just always remember that I will not allow anyone to hurt you ever again, that everything I do is a sacrifice to keep you safe. Before I could ask anything more, Nathan pulled me into his embrace. His arms wrapped around me, his warmth seeping into my skin as he pressed a gentle kiss to the top of my head. And for a fleeting moment, I let myself believe that everything was okay. That I was safe, even though, deep down, I knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. Gleaming city lights blurred into streaks of color, dazzling my vision and making it nearly impossible to focus on what lay ahead: racing cars, droplets of rain splattering against the windshield, the flickering hues of the traffic light shifting from green to yellow, then red. The deafening honks of impatient drivers seemed distant, muffled by the storm raging inside me. My hands trembled against the steering wheel, my knuckles whitening from how tightly I gripped it. My breath came in sharp gasps, but I kept my foot pressed against the accelerator. I knew that I wasn't running from anyone. I was mad driving due to something that made me struggle to keep my emotions together. Then, before I knew it, a truck crashed against the car I was maneuvering. I spun around on the bridge, the screeches of tires deafening me as my body violently slammed in all directions, until the barricade of the bridge gave up and my car plummeted down to the rapid river below. I was holding my breath the whole entire time as the water drowned the car, taking away my consciousness the moment it blocked my airways. Then, when my eyes flickered open, I found myself staring at the white ceiling of a hospital room, crying uncontrollably as the doctor's words rang over and over inside my head. I am sorry, but you had a miscarriage. Your baby didn't survive the crash. I am sorry, but you had a miscarriage. Your baby didn't survive the crash. I am sorry, but you had a miscarriage. Your baby didn't survive the crash. The words completely took me back, then within a blink of an eye, two blurry figures walked through the door. But I couldn't make out their faces as they were too disoriented, forcing me to rely on their voices for any recognition. This is all your fault. I heard myself. For some reason, I caught the man's face twisting into softness, until the woman he was with interjected. Don't blame someone else for your own recklessness. This is all your fault. Shout, tears streaming down my face. I lost my child because of you. Rage filled each of my senses, driving me to attack the woman when the man aggressively grabbed my arm and shoved me away. Carla is right. This is all your fault, he muttered. I am filing a divorce. My breath hitched upon hearing him, making my whole body cold while shaking my head multiple times. Then, without a warning, I dropped onto my knees and begged right in front of him. Please, don't do this. I am begging you. Please, don't leave me. I could feel the tears pouring down from my eyes as I tried my best to wake up from this nightmare, but no matter how hard I did, I was stuck. But in desperation, I attempted to shout just for me to hear another voice calling out someone's name as I watched my body plummeting down a building. I fell at the speed of light, making it difficult to figure out the name the voice was shouting as it faded away. Then, suddenly, my body hit something hard. I gasped for air like it was my very first time breathing, snapping up from the bed as I clutched my own chest to calm the rapid beat of my heart. Cold sweat drenched my neck and back, while my hands were relentlessly shaking from the nightmare as I groped the space next to me on the bed, just to find it cold and empty as my husband was nowhere to be found. Panic immediately washed me over, sending me to frantically run toward the door to search for him, but then I abruptly stopped when I heard voices outside the cabin. They were talking silently, cautious not to be heard by anybody in the middle of this deep and dark night. Make sure he does not get close to her, or even see her shadow. It was Nathan, his voice overflowing with authority, a sharp contrast to the one he used whenever he talked to me because he was always gentle. Stalking closer to the door, I peeked at the small hole and saw smoke swirling around him as he held a stick of cigarette in between his calloused fingers. My brows furrowed. When did he learn to smoke? And these men he was talking to, they obviously weren't fishermen or a citizen of this small village because they wore expensive clothing, some wearing tuxedos, while the others wore long polos with the sleeves rolled up to their elbows. Yes, boss, one of them said, followed by nods from the others. Nathan nodded as well, puffing his cigarette once more. Take care of the business while I am gone. Leave now. My wife will wake up any moment now. I immediately pressed myself against the wall as the men began moving, their polished shoes crunching against the sand as they turned their backs and strode toward the yacht, waiting for them. Cigarette on the ground and diffused the fire by stepping on it. By the shore, while Nathan tossed his. I watched him the entire time, from the moment he discarded his cigarette and crushed it underfoot to the moment he pulled a fresh shirt from the clothesline, swiftly changing to mask the scent of smoke just for his facade to be busted when I burst the door open. Who are those men? I asked, getting straight to the point. I had no time for games or half-truths. I needed answers. I refused to be made a fool of any longer, especially not by my own husband. Or at least, the man I thought was my husband. They are nothing. Liar, I cut him off, my voice sharp as I leveled him with a glare. I'm tired of all this, Nathan. I won't keep living in a web of lies. Either you tell me the truth, or I walk away. For good. The threat landed like a slap. I saw it in the way his face paled, his lips parting soundlessly as if he were struggling to find the right words. For a moment, he just stood there, grasping at nothing, before finally managing to say, "They're just my colleagues." Colleagues? I raised a skeptical brow. Where exactly? Because last I checked, you were a fisherman, and those men? They don't look like fishermen. A heavy silence settled between us. The kind of silence that carried unspoken truths. Neither of us backed down as we locked eyes, caught in a battle of wills. Then, with a weary sigh, Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his tell. A habit I'd seen enough times to know exactly what it meant. He always did this when he was cornered, when he was scrambling to regain control of a situation. They're my colleagues from an organization, he finally admitted. What organization? I pressed. His jaw tensed before he responded. A secret one. We handle underground business. It's highly confidential, Emily. I narrowed my eyes, my heart pounding. Underground business? I repeated, my voice laced with suspicion. You mean like drugs? I gasped dramatically. Nathan, we're not rich, but you don't have to resort to that. To my surprise, he let out a short chuckle, shaking his head. What? No, Emily, we don't sell well, they do, but I don't. I stared at him, processing his words. Excuse me? My job is different, he clarified. I'm not a dealer. My role is to spy on people, gather intel, and close deals between our organization and outside parties. I hesitated, taken aback. I had expected denial, more lies, not this blunt confession. Then why are we living like this? I asked, voicing the thought that had been nagging at me. If that's your job, you must be making a lot of money. So why are we here, struggling? He exhaled slowly, his gaze darkening. Because I'm protecting you. My heart stuttered. Protecting me? I echoed. From who? Nathan's expression turned grim. A lot of people, Emily. That's why you ran away in the first place. That's why you faked your own death. The air left my lungs. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My mind reeled as fragmented memories surfaced, voices, blurred images, emotions so raw they made my head pound. My nightmare. I whispered, my fingers tightening at my sides. They weren't just dreams, were they? They were real. They were my memories. Nathan nodded, though he didn't seem to fully grasp what I was referring to. And then, he dropped a truth so heavy it left me breathless. You are the lost heiress they've been searching for. A sharp gasp tore from my lips. My hand flew to my mouth, but it did nothing to stifle the shock slamming into me. Your father has been looking for you since I sneaked you out of the hospital because I didn't want your sacrifice to be put in vain. Nathan sighed heavily. I've been praying for you to be mine since we were in college, but you chose him instead. Then whenever I look at you, I blame it on him and his mistress. Could still see the hurt in your face that day you asked me to fake your death, and a shudder ran through me. Him. My real husband. I barely dared to ask, what happened after I faked my death? Nathan held my gaze. Your father cursed your husband, forbidding him from ever coming near you again. As for Carla, her modeling career was ruined. He exhaled. You put everything on the line to escape that life, and I wouldn't let it all go to waste because I love you. For what felt like the 9th time, my breath was caught in my throat. My heart clenched. I hadn't heard those words in what felt like an eternity. Why, you love me. I always have, he said firmly. But now, the choice is yours. You can go back to your family, reclaim the life that was taken from you, or you can stay here, with me. Who was that woman claiming to be me? I asked Nathan, my voice unsteady as I paced the room, biting my fingers in frustration. Why does she look like me? My mind raced. I was supposed to be the only heiress, the only daughter of the chairman. There was no one else. No twin, no lost sibling. And yet, that woman, she was my mirror image. Nathan exhaled heavily before answering. It's Carla, he said. Daniel's mistress. I froze. What? She was also your best friend, he continued. That's how she knew exactly how to talk and act like you. When she found out you had disappeared from the hospital and rumors spread about you being kidnapped by a syndicate, she took her chance. She had her entire face reconstructed to look exactly like you so she could steal your identity. The room felt like it was spinning. My legs wobbled as I took a shaky step forward. Why would she do that? I whispered, barely recognizing my own voice. Jealous of you. Nathan's jaw clenched, his eyes darkening with sorrow. Because she is. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then finally, he sighed. I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have seen this coming. If only I had figured it out sooner, we could have stopped her before. Shoo. I cut him off gently, stepping closer to cup his face in my palms. It's not your fault, Nathan. None of this is. The only ones to blame are them. His eyes fluttered shut as he took a deep breath, his hands wrapping around mine, pressing them against his face as though grounding himself in my touch. He didn't speak, but the guilt in his expression told me everything. I didn't want him to feel that way. I will regain my identity, I said, my voice laced with determination. With a mix of fear and pain. His eyes snapped open, flickering. But I will stay with you, I continued. I will go wherever you go, as long as you are with me, Nathan. So promise me that you will stay. Promise me that you won't leave my side. His grip on my hands tightened. I promise, he said without hesitation. I can't live without you, Em. I love you. His entire body went rigid. His breath hitched, his eyes widening as he processed my words. Seeing his stunned expression, I let out a soft sigh and leaned in, pressing my lips against his in the lightest of kisses. I love you, Nathan, I whispered again. His expression softened in an instant. Before I could react, he pulled me into his arms, lifting me onto his lap as he held me in a tight embrace. Do you know how long I've waited for you to say that? He murmured against my hair, his voice thick with emotion. I smiled, pressing a hand to his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. You don't have to wait anymore. Without wasting another second, I kissed him again, deeper this time, pouring every ounce of my love and devotion into it. He was taken aback by my sudden action, his breath hitching against my lips, but it only took a moment before he melted into the kiss, his hands sliding up my back, pulling me closer. His warmth enveloped me, his touch gentle yet desperate, as if he was afraid I would disappear if he let go. Slowly, he guided us toward the bed, his lips never leaving mine, and as we sank into the soft sheets, the world outside faded away. The weight of the past, the pain of betrayal, the fear of the moment. Unknown, none of it mattered in this. All that existed was the way our bodies fit together, the way his hands traced every curve as if memorizing me, the way his lips whispered silent promises against my skin. And in that space, where nothing else could reach us, we let our love speak in ways words never could. We made love until the first light of dawn crept through the window, painting golden streaks across our tangled limbs. Wrapped in each other's warmth, we lay in silence, listening to the world outside stir from slumber. Then when the cricket's song faded, replaced by the distant crowing of roosters, we finally rose from bed, reluctant but content. The village was still cloaked in the soft hush of early morning, the perfect time to walk through its quiet streets. So, hand in hand, we strolled to the small market, our fingers entwined as if letting go would shatter the fragile serenity between us. The scent of fresh bread and sun-kissed fruit filled the air, mingling with the distant salt of the ocean. Every glance, every stolen touch, felt like a silent promise here, in this moment. There was no past to haunt us, no future to fear. Just the simple, undeniable truth that as long as we had each other, we were home. But then everything was shattered when a four-wheel vehicle suddenly parked before us, the doors sliding open as numerous armed men stepped out. Nathan immediately hid me behind his broad and tall frame, but we were outnumbered and were unable to do anything except to scream when the men grabbed me. I tried to fight them, my desperation clawing my chest as I tried to reach my hand to Nathan. But then a piece of cloth was pressed over my nose and mouth, the forcing itself into my lungs. Pungent odor burning my throat, and I gasped as I tried to hold my breath, but it was useless. My limbs grew heavy, my vision blurred, and the last thing I saw was Nathan's face wild with fear, his lips forming my name before darkness swallowed me whole. Gasping for air, I coughed multiple times, my throat raw as I blinked against the harsh brightness assaulting my vision. My chest heaved, my body aching, but panic quickly set in as the memories came rushing back: the ambush, the struggle, the suffocating cloth pressed over my nose. I frantically looked around and discovered that I was in an abandoned infrastructure, my wrists tightly bound above my head to a piece of rusted metal. Opening my mouth, I was about to scream for help when a voice suddenly cut in. "It's so nice to see you helpless there," the voice drawled with satisfaction. My body tensed as I whipped my head in the direction of the sound, only for my breath to catch in my throat. My heart pounded violently against my ribs as I stared at the impossible. It was like looking into a mirror. "Carla," I breathed, my voice laced with disbelief. "Emma," she corrected sharply, her gaze burning with cold fury. "My name is Emma." "You're not." I shot back, my voice rising in outrage. "I'm Emma. You stole my identity." "I didn't steal anything from you," she yelled, her voice cracking with emotion. "I'm just taking back everything you stole from me. You ruined my life." "You are crazy," I spat through gritted teeth, my wrists straining against the binds. "You are the one who destroyed me. So how dare you put the blame on me? You really don't see your mistakes, do you?" she sneered, her lips curling with bitterness. "You always think you're the best. You don't even realize the way you crushed me under your shadow." I faltered as she stepped closer, her eyes glistening not with malice, but with something deeper, something raw. "I didn't finish school because you took the scholarship that was meant for me," she accused, her voice trembling. "A scholarship you didn't even need because you were born into a life of luxury." I could hear my own heartbeat drumming wildly in my ears as flashes of memory surged through my mind, confirming the truth in her words. "I didn't tell you that I had a crush on Daniel because I knew you would see it as a competition, just like you always do. Then, after just a few weeks, I discovered that you were already in a relationship with him. Tears began to stream down her face. You stole him too, so I told myself that I had enough. That was why I dated him behind your back while you were his wife. Then you ruined my modeling career when you found out. For a couple of seconds, we were engulfed by silence as no one dared to talk, until she scoffed. Then she scoffed, shaking her head. So tell me, whose life is really ruined? Is it my fault that you were always so jealous of me? The sharp, stinging impact of her palm against my cheek silenced me instantly. My head snapped to the side from the force of the slap, the burning sensation searing through my skin. My skin burned, but I couldn't do anything to ease it as my wrists were still bound. I just glared sharply at her, gritting my teeth in anger as my chest rapidly rose and fell. Opening her mouth, she was about to say something when another voice but coming from the man who suddenly appeared in the shadows. Always selfish, Daniel muttered, sliding his hands into the pockets of his pants. You've always been selfish, Emma. I glared at him, fury surging through me like wildfire. My patience had run out, and I could no longer keep my emotions bottled up. You are the one who's selfish. Not me. I gave you everything, Daniel. But what did you do, huh? You shattered my trust. You betrayed me. You cheated on me with my best friend. Because you weren't enough. Those words he uttered would have shattered me from within if I was still the old Emma, but I wasn't anymore. His words didn't wound me. They only fueled my rage. I am enough, Daniel. You just never saw my worth, I spat, my voice firm, unwavering. He sneered, but despite his feigned indifference, his jaw tightened and his eyes darkened. I had struck a nerve. That's why you found somebody else? Yes, I answered without hesitation, my chin lifted in defiance. Because Nathan sees me, loves me, cares for me, things you never did. A painful wince slipped my lips when Daniel violently squeezed my cheeks together, his jaw tightly clenched out of fury. Do you even know how desperately I searched for you? I almost lost my damn mind, Emma, he roared. I begged on my knees in front of your father when he forbade me from seeing you in the hospital. I tore the world apart looking for you, only to find out that while I was drowning in agony, you were living with another man? Then you shouldn't have looked for me. I snapped back, my wrists straining against the restraints. You should have just what you wanted? Lived happily with your mistress. Isn't that? Oh, don't worry, Carla interjected, her voice laced with triumph. We'll do that once we're done with you. I will be your father's daughter. I will be your husband's wife. A sudden explosion of gunfire cut her off. The sound tore through the air like thunder, sending a jolt of panic through the room. The walls trembled, the echoes ringing in my ears as startled gasps erupted from the men guarding me. What the hell? Daniel barked, whipping his head toward the door, his grip on my face loosening. But before he or anyone else could react, the heavy metal doors burst open, slamming against the walls with a deafening crash. A gust of wind rushed in, carrying the scent of gunpowder and something far more dangerous, the promise of vengeance. And standing at the entrance, his eyes burning with fury, was Nathan. Nathan's men immediately barged in, taking down almost half of our enemies in mere seconds. Chaos erupted around us, gunfire echoed against the decaying walls, shouts filled the air, and bodies collapsed to the ground. But amid the madness, Nathan's sole focus was me. He rushed forward, his strong hands working quickly to untie my bound wrists. The second I was freed, I collapsed into his arms, my body trembling from exhaustion and pain. But we couldn't afford a moment's rest, time was against us. He grabbed my hand, and we ran toward the exit, weaving through the wreckage of the battle. But before we could make it far, a sharp yank at my scalp forced me to a halt. I screamed as Carla viciously pulled my hair, yanking me backward with all her strength. My body jerked violently, and before I could retaliate, Nathan lunged to shove her away only to be blindsided by Daniel's fist crashing into his jaw. The sickening crack of bone meeting flesh sent Nathan staggering, momentarily stunned. My heart lurched, but I had no time to worry about him as Carla's grip tightened, her face contorted with rage. Drawing in a sharp breath, I gritted my teeth and grasped her wrist, twisting it with all my strength. A piercing scream tore from her throat as her shoulder dislocated, forcing her to let go. She stumbled back, eyes burning with hatred, cradling her injured arm. But her fury overpowered her pain before I could react. She lunged at me again, knocking me off balance. The next thing I knew, my back, the impact forcing the air from my lungs. Slammed against the cold though filthy ground, Carla straddled me, her knees digging into my ribs as she rained down slap after slap. My face burned with every strike, the sharp sting bringing tears to my eyes. I raised my arms to shield myself, but she grabbed them and raked her nails down my skin, leaving fiery trails in their wake. I screamed, my body writhing beneath her. Gritting my teeth, I gathered every ounce of strength left in me, balling my fist before launching a heavy punch straight into her jaw. The impact sent her reeling, her body jerking to the side as she clutched her face in shock and pain. I seized the moment, rolling out from under her and scrambling to my feet. My pulse thundered in my ears and my vision blurred as I grabbed her hair and dragged her all over the wall while she cried and did her best to fight back. Yet it was all useless as my rage overflowed, blurring every logical thought inside my head. This is for hurting the people I love. I shouted at her, violently slapping her across the face. This is for my child. For betraying me. For lying. For breaking my trust. I slapped her again and again, each strike ringing in the air, surely taking away her ability to hear with the sheer impact. But just as I was about to slap her once more, an authoritative voice cut through the tension like a blade. Even Daniel, Nathan, and their men froze, their battle momentarily forgotten. Hurting me. Please, help me. Father. Carla cried out to the man who had just arrived. This woman is. My grip on her loosened, my lips parting as I struggled to find words that failed me when I saw the sheer loathing in my own father's eyes as he looked at me. Let go of my daughter, you filthy woma, he abruptly stopped, his voice faltering as his gaze locked onto my face. His expression softened for a brief second before shifting into sheer confusion. His eyes darted between me and Carla, disbelief washing over him as he took in the sight of two identical faces staring back at him, both claiming to be his daughter. How, this is impossible, he mumbled under his breath. Father, I am your daughter. Carla wailed, tears streaming down her face. Please, believe me. This woman is a fraud. My jaw dropped at her audacity. Do not listen to her, Father. I am Emma. I am your daughter, I pleaded, my voice trembling. Stop brainwashing my father. Carla shouted again. I could see the fury in her eyes. She was dying to slap me, but she held herself back, knowing that the real Emma would never act that way. Ask us anything, only the real Emma. And you would know, and I'll prove that I am your daughter. My breath hitched, my body got cold. I knew I didn't stand a chance. I hadn't fully regained all of my memories. That is unfair. I snapped, desperation creeping into my voice. I have amnesia. How can I answer if I can't remember? You're just afraid of being busted. Carla's lips curled into an evil smirk, confident that she knew me better than I knew myself in my current state. This bitch is the imposter. A suffocating silence abruptly fell. Nothing could be heard as I watched my father's expression contort into a scowl. His thick brows furrowed, while a smirk flashed across my face as realization dawned on him. The truth finally sank and he remembered that I, the real Emma, had never used vulgar words like the one Carla had just uttered, exposing her lies. When she realized her mistake, her eyes widened, and she took a few steps back. But before she could completely move away, she seized my arm and took me hostage. Emma! Nathan shouted, about to advance, but Carla quickly pressed a sharp shard of glass against my neck. Do not move any closer, she threatened, inching the weapon closer to my skin. But before it could even touch me, My hands moved on their own, violently shoved her away, earning gasps from everyone as she collapsed face first onto the burning wood beneath us. My hands shot up to my mouth to stifle my gasp as I watched Carla squirm by the flaming woods, her scream cutting through the air as the face she stole from me melted against the fire. It revealed who she truly was, a fraud who was trying so hard to be me, to take everything that was mine because she was never content with what she had. So now, the consequences are burning her alive. What have you done? Daniel's enraged voice shattered the moment. His expression was wild, consumed with fury and desperation as he lunged toward me, his every intention set on vengeance. But he never reached me. Nathan moved swiftly, his strike precise. The weapon in his hand crashed against the back of Daniel's neck with a sickening crack, cutting off his fury in an instant. Daniel crumpled to the ground, his unconscious body sprawled in the dirt like all the others who had dared to threaten me. But there was no time to dwell on the fallen. The battle was over, but the aftermath remained. Nathan and my father rushed toward me, their men securing the area, ensuring no more threats lurked in the shadows. Nathan's hands were on me in an instant, firm but gentle as he scanned my face, my body, searching for any sign of injury. "Are you hurt?" His voice was urgent, laced with concern. I parted my lips to answer, but before I could speak, my father pulled me into his arms. His embrace was fierce, almost desperate, and then to my utter shock I felt his body tremble. Then I heard it. A sob. Raw. Heartbroken. Real. I am so sorry, Emma, he choked out, his grip tightening as though he feared I would vanish if he let go. I should have known. I should have seen through that woman. How could I not recognize my own daughter? His pain was palpable, a weight pressing between us. I had never seen him like this, never seen the great and powerful man that was my father unravel with regret. Slowly, my arms moved on their own, wrapping around him, returning the embrace that we had both longed for. "It's over now," I whispered, my voice softer than I expected. But he shook his head, his voice thick with remorse. "I lost your mother. I can't lose you too. Not again. Never again." Taking a deep breath, I caught a glance of Nathan, who had a soft smile on his face, an indicator that he was happy to see me finally reunited with my only family. And it was because of him, because if he hadn't helped me, if he hadn't stayed on my side, all of this would not be possible. So after I hugged my father, I immediately ran to him and gave him the gesture without a single thought. He nearly stumbled on the ground, laughed it off, and lifted me while pressing kisses on top of my head. When I jumped on his body, but he just. Then this time, it was my father who watched us with a smile on his face before he told us that we must already leave as the police finally arrived. The sirens of their cars echoed throughout the whole place, the blue and red lights coming from them dancing on every surface. We were interviewed for a brief moment before they allowed us to go, Nathan and my father insisting that I must take a rest. So when we rode the car, I slept out of exhaustion all throughout our journey to wherever my father would bring us. Then when I opened my eyes, I found myself inside a luxurious mansion which was probably worth millions of dollars. My lips were parted as I gazed around, not believing that I was the heiress of all of the things I was seeing. I was a millionaire. I grew up in this mansion with everything I needed and wanted provided by my parents. Within these walls, I created memories with them, memories that I was dying to regain. But if the heavens forbid me to have it, then I would create new things. I will create fresh memories with these people who I loved and cared about, my father and Nathan. "We are so happy that you're back, Emma," my father told me, snatching me out of my thoughts. Turning to face him, I flashed a soft smile across my face. "I am too, father. I am very happy." He smiled too. "You used to run around here when you were a kid, teasing the servants with your wits and wickedness." My father gazed around too, as if he could see my younger version doing what he described. My heart warmed on it, realizing that despite the trauma and the betrayal Daniel and Carla caused me, I was loved and cherished. And now that everything is over, My father cleared his throat, squaring his shoulders as he raised a brow at Nathan, who obviously tensed as his face drained of color. Any plans for marriage? I choked at my own saliva, smacking my chest as I coughed to help myself breath, just for it to be taken away once again when Nathan suddenly knelt in front of me. His hands were shaking, but it didn't velvet box revealing a ring with the stop him from opening the small red biggest diamond I've ever seen in my whole entire life. My eyes widened, my heart rapidly beating inside my chest as tears stung my eyes with overflowing happiness. And I didn't expect that I could be even more happier as he uttered those words. Emma, will you marry me? Taking a deep breath, I steadied my heart and took my first step forward as the grand doors of the church slowly swung open. A soft gasp rippled through the gathered crowd, but all I could hear was the rhythmic thudding of my own heartbeat. My fingers tightened around the bouquet in my hands, my knuckles brushing against the delicate lace of my pristine white gown. Underneath the sheer veil, I smiled, taking in the sight of the people who had gathered here not just as witnesses to this sacred moment, but as those who had stood by our side through every hardship, every battle, and every triumph. Nathan. And then, my gaze found him. He stood at the altar, tall and composed, yet his emotions betrayed him. A soft smile tugged at his lips, but his eyes, those deep, unwavering eyes, shimmered with unshed tears. Not tears of sorrow, but of pride, of overwhelming joy that I could feel from where I stood. The moment our eyes met, it was as if the entire world around us blurred into nothingness. It was just him and me, standing at the edge of forever. I never wanted to see him cry, but these tears, these were different. These, I welcomed. A quiet laugh escaped me, barely audible over the soft melody of the organ. He didn't care that his colleagues from the secret organization were here, watching. Didn't care that these men, strong, unreadable, trained to be emotionless, would see him as something fragile in this moment. Because for Nathan, there was no pride greater than this, no moment more important than the one we were about to share. Step by step, I moved forward, the weight of my dress trailing behind me, yet I felt lighter than I ever had before. Each footstep carried me closer to him, to the promise we had made the night he knelt before me with a ring in his hands. That promise, forged in the fire of everything we had endured, was not just a vow of love, but of unwavering devotion. A promise to stand together, no matter what came our way. As I finally reached him, I saw his breath hitch, his hands twitch slightly as if resisting the urge to reach for me before it was time. His fingers curled, then released, his resolve nearly faltering. I had never seen him so unguarded, so open, and it only made my heart swell more. Stopping just in front of him, I lifted my chin, my smile widening as the officiant began to speak, signaling the start of our wedding ceremony. From the moment our paths crossed years ago at that university, my world was never the same. Before I met you, I never understood what it meant to truly belong to someone, to have a soul so intricately entwined with mine. And then, I realized it already had a name. Emma. A soft gasp escaped me as my vision blurred with unshed tears. My heart clenched at his words, the warmth of his love settling deep within my chest. You were never just a person to me, Nathan continued, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the world around us fade. You were the light that illuminated my life, the map that brought direction to me, and the heart I never knew I needed. You taught me love not as a fleeting emotion but as something unbreakable, something worth fighting for. He paused, as if letting the weight of his words sink in. His voice softened, but the conviction remained unshaken. Today, I vow not just to love you, but to cherish you, care for you, and protect you, just like I always have. And even if time were to steal our memories, even if we were to forget the moments that brought us here, I swear to find my way back to you. With or without memory, whether you are Emma or Emily, whether we are strangers or lovers starting anew, I will always, always choose you. I pressed my lips together, failing to contain the sob that built in my throat. My fingers tightened around his, and I felt utterly foolish for crying, but the overwhelming emotions refused to be suppressed. Every word he spoke was a promise that reached into the deepest corners of my soul, a vow so powerful that I knew I would never need to question his love. And then, it was my turn. I took a deep breath, but my voice wavered as I spoke his name, my heart already spilling over with love. Nathan. I had rehearsed my vows countless times, but now, standing before him, I knew words would never be enough. Still, I poured every ounce of emotion into them, hoping he could feel even a fraction of what he meant to me. You were my strength in my weakest moments, my light in the darkest nights, and my home whenever I felt lost. When everything around me crumbled, you stood firm. You were my anchor, my shield, my unwavering constant in a world that often felt cruel. Nathan inhaled sharply, his grip on my hands tightening, as if my words were grounding him just as his had grounded me. You never let go, never wavered, even when everything tried to tear us apart. So today, before everyone who matters, I vow to love you in every lifetime, to always choose you without hesitation, without fear. It will always be you, Nathan, now and forever. A tear slipped down his cheek, but he let it fall, his smile more radiant than ever. And in that moment he kissed my lips, the betrayed lost heiress was found. Nathan's question replayed in my mind, each repetition pulling me deeper into uncertainty. Reuniting with my father should have been an easy choice, but the thought of leaving Nathan, the man who had risked everything and stayed by my side during my coma, felt unbearable. He had risked everything for me. He had pulled me from the abyss, stayed by my side through the darkest times, and cared for me while I lay unconscious for a year. So how could I just walk away from him now? And then, his confession. He loved me. He wasn't pressuring me to choose him or dictating my path, but the very fact that he had said those words made me realize something terrifying. Maybe, I loved high. A deafening roar split through the air, cutting my thoughts short. The village trembled as a violent gust howled through the narrow streets, nearly toppling anything not rooted in place. I gasped, stumbling toward the door as the powerful sound tore through the sky. Rushing outside, my breath hitched as I watched the helicopter descend into the white sand. Murmurs and gasps rose above the noise as an old man stepped out, his luxurious attire, neatly groomed hair, and air of sophistication, a stark contrast to the humble village around him. It's the chairman, someone whispered beside me. The one looking for his lost heiress. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might burst. I barely heard the murmurs of the villagers, barely felt the way my fingers trembled at my sides. My breath hitched as I took a step forward, my mind racing. This man. This powerful man standing just a few feet away from me. I could feel it in my bones, in the way my soul screamed at the recognition. He was my father. I heard that my daughter was seen in this village, his deep, authoritative voice echoed, commanding the attention of everyone present. Whoever leads me to her will be rewarded handsomely. Name your price, and I will grant it. Just bring me my daughter. Once again, murmurs from the villagers echoed. But I ignored every one of them as I opened my mouth and was about to raise my hand when a weeping woman suddenly burst into the scene. She was sobbing uncontrollably, her cries raw and desperate. Her clothes were torn, her hair disheveled, and the sheer agony in her voice sent a chill down my spine as she flung herself at my father's feet. "Father," she wailed, clutching at his leg as if her life depended on it. But it wasn't her desperate cries that sent a chilling numbness through my body, it was the fact that she looked exactly like me. Her hair and eyes were the same color as mine, her skin was the same complexion as mine too. There was no single difference between us, except for our voices, because hers was a little high-pitched, while mine was soft. "I am here now," she cried again, hugging my father's leg tighter. I escaped from them. Please, please, take me away from here before they see me." My father softened at her desperate plea, immediately helping her stand as he ordered his men to escort them inside the helicopter. I wanted to scream and tell him that I was here and that woman was an imposter, but I couldn't find my voice. It was like every single syllable and word in the world suddenly vanished, sending me to absent-mindedly step backward as I shook my head. "This can't be happening," I was the real heiress, not that imposter. I was shaking my head over and over as I stepped back, until I bumped into someone behind. Turning around, I opened my mouth to apologize, but then the words turned into a wince when the man clutched my arm. Emma. I instantly grabbed my arm from the stranger, taking a step back to have a distance with him as I stared with zero familiarity, not until he spoke again. Emma, it's me. He tried to move forward again, but immediately stopped when I backed away. I am sorry, but I don't know you, I said, even though deep inside, my instinct told me the opposite. I couldn't recognize his face, but his voice was oddly familiar, like I have heard it before countless times, not only in my dreams, but in real-life scenarios. It's me, Daniel, your husband. I froze from my spot, not able to move at all as his words echoed inside my head again and again like a broken stereo. Why, you're my husband. Get away from my wife. I was abruptly cut off as Daniel's body flew away from me when Nathan suddenly shoved him, shielding an arm over my body in a possessive manner. Daniel nearly stumbled on the sand if he wasn't fast enough to regain his balance, scowling at Nathan. Your wife, he snorted. Emma is my wife. Nathan advanced to attack Daniel, but I grabbed his arm and shook my head at him. That man kidnapped you, Emma. Daniel shouted. Come to me. Let's go home. No, I firmly uttered, immediately stopping him from stepping closer to me. Leave. I don't know you. You are not my husband because my husband is here. Tightening my hold on Nathan's arm, I tiptoed, and without a warning, I pressed my lips against his. I kissed Nathan in front of Daniel, who I now vividly remember as the man who caused me so much pain to the point of making me think that vanishing was the better option of all things. So now that I had truly vanished and lived a new life, who was he to take it all away from me again? Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.